Hello fans, this is the PC Expert Amateur, and thanks to the request of Shaheen, I'm going to do a little video here on how to daisy chain fans together. Now, it's actually very simple, but for people who've never done it, it can be intimidating, especially for people who are not very familiar with technology. I'm not saying that Shaheen, I'm just saying some people, for various reasons, may not know how to do this. So I'm going to do it a few different ways. I'm going to do it with two fans that can be daisy chained together directly because the manufacturer made the cabling that way. I'm also going to do it with a fan splitter and with a fan hub. So hold on. Okay, we're going to start with direct daisy chaining, and I've got a couple of fans here from the Ziagonal Yeston brand. And they're really mostly just for decoration. They're not particularly good fans, but they're not the worst either. So as you can see, both cables, PWM and ARGB, have got two connectors on them. So for PWM, you're going to take your, well, actually, not this one. This one has two. You're going to take your PWM connector that has got both a male and a female. Now, if you're wondering about male or female, female has holes and males have pins, as you can see there. So you're going to take the one with that looks like a socket that has pins in it, and you're going to match it with the other cable, in this case the one that has the holes, and you're going to notice with PWM that in order to align it correctly so you don't destroy the fan with electricity, there is this little tab here, and that matches with these two ridges on this one. So you're just going to align them and plug them in, and that's all there is to it. And of course, this would be connected to a fan hub or the motherboard or something like that. I don't have these unraveled, so just trying to make it simple for myself. And that's all it takes to daisy chain two fans together. Now, there are other kinds of fans that don't have cables, and then you just click them together or you slide them together. It depends on which brand it is. Some have it where there's a magnetic thing that holds it together. Some have fingers and pins, and you have to lock them into place by putting them like that. Some of them have a little connector that you add in case you don't want to use cables, and then you are going to push them together. There are a variety of different ways to do that, but I'm not showing that here. I'm not even sure I have enough of those to do that. They're kind of expensive. I do have a couple, but I don't think that one necessarily needs to be explained because I'm pretty sure that there are videos out there that you can see for the specific brand you have. So while we're at it, we're also going to look at how to connect the ARGB fan part together. So if you see here, there are these two connectors, and this is the female. It's got the three holes in it, so you can see two holes of space in another hole. And then there's this one, and you're like, where are the pins? And they don't all look like this. Some of them have a rectangular cover over them, and it's even hard to distinguish where the cap separates from this part. So you have to, sometimes it's a little bit confusing, but you'll figure it out. With this one, it's very easy. You just simply pull it off, and that exposes the pins. Now, I could just do it with itself, but, you know, we don't want to demonstrate incest on here. I mean, fan incest. I mean, you know what I mean. It's because I could technically plug these into each other, but I also don't want to stress out my cables. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this other one again, and you're going to align the pins with the holes. So I've got two on top, and I've got two on top. Also, you can, if you look at the housing of these two plugs, you'll see that both of them have an arrow on them, and that arrow can be also used as a way to align them correctly so you don't try to force them together in the wrong way and then break the pins, because the pins are kind of delicate. Not very delicate, but you should be careful. If you cannot actually see, if you're like trying to connect it to a motherboard and you can't actually see it, It's really important that you do it carefully with good lighting and figure out a way so you can see what you're plugging into. Otherwise, you could damage something. With RGB, it's a little bit more difficult, but you still are going to be looking at the motherboard to see which side is ground and match that to the side that has the arrow on the housing. So that's that one. So let's take a look at how to use the splitter. So in the event that you have got fans that are not built with a daisy-chainable cable, like these two, and these are Montech fans. Montech's okay. The fans are not nearly as good as the cases are. I mean, if you want a good case, Montech has really good cases. But so far, I don't know. I don't think these are fantastic. But they're okay. They're okay. So what you're going to want to do is get a splitter. Now, there are lots of different kinds of splitters. There's a 2-to-1. There's a 3-to-1. Some of them are even more than that, although you have to be careful because if you're going to be plugging it into a header, the total amount of amps that are being drawn by all the fans on one header, for most headers on most motherboards, the maximum is 1 amp. So if you have 3 fans and each fan takes 0.4 amps, you can only have 2 of them on one header, which means if you have a 3-way header, a 3-way splitter like this one, so I've got, this is going to the motherboard side, and then these are the 3 for the fans. If you've got like this, and you've got those 0.4 amp fans, you're not going to be able to use this unless you've got a header on your motherboard that does PWM, or it could be a 3-pin. That's fine too, but it won't run on PWM then. Well, what I mean is this. This is one of those stretchy ones, so if you have fans in a bunch of different spots. There are others where it's just like 1 to 3 directly like that, instead of this kind of chain effect like this. But if you try to do 3 fans at 0.4 amps each, that's 1.2 amps, and that can cause eventually damage to the motherboard because you're drawing more power from that header than the header was designed to give, so it could damage it. You don't want to ever do that. You want to make sure that it's less than that. So you could have 3.3 fans, but not 3.35 amp fans, because then you're at 1.05 amps. All right, so again, you're going to take the one that is female and plug that into your motherboard, and the 3 that are socket looking that actually have pins in them, those are the males. You're going to take, so you want to look at which of these is first. And people who are not familiar with this, and I used to not be familiar with this, are going to be confused about this potentially. What you can see here is, let's see which one is which. Okay, there we go. You'll notice that off the female here, there are 2 coming off. So we've got this one, and we've got this one. And what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to find the one that actually has 4 pins inside of that socket. And so actually, it's the one on this splitter. Different brands do things differently. But on this particular splitter, this lone one is the actual 4-pin one, and this is the main port. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to take one of the fans. It doesn't matter which one unless you're like trying to be really organized or something like that. But generally speaking, if they're all on one splitter, it doesn't matter which one if they're all the same kind of fan. If they're different kinds of fans, you can run into some challenges with that. I don't recommend it. It is possible, but there are potentially some challenges, especially if they have very different specifications. So if you have a really strong fan that is connected to the first one, say this is a really strong fan and this is a really weak fan, when you connect the weak fan as dependent on this one, when this one is running this one is running, it's going to do a lot of work to keep whatever it is its job is to cool. And so it isn't going to need to ramp up to as high of a speed as this one would be, have to do theoretically, right? This is there. I'll do it this way with this one. So this one is going to be theoretically more powerful than this one. And so if you put the powerful one on the first port or the first socket, it's not going to necessarily need to go above, say, 50%. This one, however, to do the same job as this one, would probably need to go to 100% or 70% or 90%, who knows. Therefore, this fan will probably never ramp up to maximum speed because this fan is determining the maximum speed, and the results of the temperature changes are determining what this fan is told to do. So when this fan is instructed, then that instruction gets passed on from this fan to the other fans on the splitter or hub. Now, we'll see in a minute or three how to do it with the hub. So keep that in mind, that you don't want very different fans on one splitter because it's going to result in suboptimal usage of your fans, I guess you could say. So let's go ahead, go back to this. I'm going to plug one of my fans into here, and again, you're gonna line up. I don't know if you can see it very well. My computer camera is being annoying. Okay, so you can see that tab there, and on the fan for the cable for the fan, that is, you can see the ridges right there. So again, you're going to align them so that they match up, and then you'll be able to plug this in. Now, on some brands, the quality of the connectors are not that great, and so the pins will kind of wobble around, like especially if you're daisy chaining Molex-D fans, which I absolutely hate Molex-D for that purpose, but Molex-D is the original daisy chaining connector. But yeah, I'll show you that one too, I guess, just because, so you can see. But anyway, so I've got the first one connected, and now I'm going to take the second one. And it doesn't really matter for the second one where I connect it. So I could connect it to, say, this one. I could connect it to, or I could connect it to the other one at the end. That doesn't make a difference. Whatever you need as far as distance between the fans is concerned, that's what you're going to want to do. So don't worry about that. As long as you have one fan connected to the main one that actually has 4 pins. Now I want to show you, just so you're not confused here, because a lot of people ask on forums that I help out on, why does it only have 3 pins? Why doesn't it have 4 pins? Okay. So if we look at the male and the female, you can see that theoretically you can see the lighting is not hitting it right. So there we go. You can see there are 4 holes there, and you can kind of see that there are, on this one, 4 pins. Let me try to angle it so that it'll be easier to see, or not. It's really hard to show you this. All right, well anyways, trust me when I say that on this particular port there are 4 pins, and then the other ones have got a pin missing. All right, so you're going to find the one with 4, and you're going to connect that to one of the fans. So here we go. So you can see the ridges and tab Man, it's hard to catch the light here. There it is. They're lining up. Okay, so now we're going to take the second fan and we're going to connect that fan to one of these other ones. And just align the pseudo slot and the tab together. And that is all that is required. So we could add, again, a third fan to this last socket here, assuming that the total power is not too high. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Molex-D. Okay, there are essentially what you might say two different kinds of Molex-D connectors. There's the kind that has only one gender, which is like this, where you've got the male inside the socket and the female with the holes. And the other kind has both, all built into one. So on one side you have the male, which is often just two pins being used. On the other side you have the female. So we're going to connect these two together. It doesn't matter which kind we're working with. It doesn't matter. What I mean is it doesn't matter if we're using this kind with two different connectors or this kind with one connector. They are the same connector in terms of usage. Okay, so they're called Molex-D because if you look at this, you can see that the corners on this side are rounded and the corners on this side are sharp. Okay, I don't know if there we go. And the same is true of the socket. You can see that the corners on the top there are rounded. So you want to align the rounded sides with each other, male and female, and just simply push them together. Now, it's not simple though, because here's the problem. This design is inferior, so I want to show you why they're inferior. I'm going to drop that one. The pins are not in a fixed position, and you can, while you're trying to connect them, because they're not in a fixed position, they will move around inside of the socket. And even to a small extent, with the holes, they too can wiggle around to a certain extent within the socket, which is very, very, very annoying. I absolutely wish that they would make good Molex-D where the pins and holes can't move. So you have to be very careful to hold the wires in such a way that the pins aren't going to worm around, but that's not easy. So right now I've got it part weight, and there we go. If you do it right, that's all it takes. But it takes practice, so don't get frustrated. Also, don't try to force it, because what can happen if you force it is you're actually going to push a pin or a hole out the back on this kind. Okay, so they can actually be forced out the back end where the wires are coming in. With this kind, because of the design, it goes in through the side. So it's, as you can see right there, so it's very difficult for the pins to be pushed out per se, but it can still cause damage. So we want to avoid that. Personally, I suggest just avoiding this crap connector. The only reason they still exist, as far as I can tell, is because in some countries they're still the dominant form of connector. And they're cheaper, I would suppose, even though I don't really think so, because they use a lot more material than something like this 3-pin connector here. So, yeah, it's frustrating. Okay, so that is Molex-D connection for daisy chaining. So those are a couple of really off-brand fans. I think one of them is an AccuHome and the other one is a Yaku. We're going to try NZXT this time. Why? Well, because they've got a hub that comes with it. I would have done it with the Lianli as well, but unfortunately the Lianli set I bought that I have readily available to me right now doesn't have the hub and stuff. It got lost at the store. It was an open box purchase. NZXT in particular are annoying. Why? Well, see, you can't just plug this into the power supply or the header for the fans. NZXT has moved to proprietary connectors. So this one actually requires that you connect it to a I think it's USB 2.0 9-pin header on your motherboard, which is irritating. And then they have a SATA connector, which is nice for you to connect this to the power supply. So all the power is coming from this device. Now this particular one only has 3 ports. And like I was talking about before with the splitter needing to correctly connect it, and oh, by the way, this hub is only for RGB. You still have to connect your PWM connectors to something else, not to this. And it's proprietary. And it's hard to adapt. So, oh my God. Don't get me started on these companies that are doing this crap. So, actually, when I got this, it was really irritating because one of the 3 fans that came with this set did not actually work right. The light wouldn't work right. But fortunately, when I told NZXT and I sent them proof that the lights weren't working correctly, they sent me a replacement fan at no charge, and I still have the original fan that it came with. Unfortunately, the replacement was actually a different model. So, pros and cons. So anyways, when you're using a hub, you're going to want to make sure, especially if it's like a PWM hub, again, just as with the splitter, you have to find the first port. And so just imagine that this is a PWM splitter. You would look for the one that says port 1 or port 0, or it may have the socket being colored differently, most often red. Sometimes it's not colored differently, but red isn't the indicator most often that it is port 0 or port 1. Sorry, something in the air today. So when you're connecting fans this way, you're going to get your proprietary BS NZXT connector, which has that little lock there. And you're going to connect one of them to the first port. So you can see that the lock is here. Okay, I'm going to connect that like that. Now to release it, you actually have to push on this lock at the tip. Otherwise, it won't come off, which is a good thing. I like the fact that there's a lock. Otherwise, it relies on friction. Now this is the PWM, so you're going to have to connect this to a PWM hub or a header or a splitter or a controller or a relay, something. Okay, then you get your next fan, and you take the NZXT connector, which is a 4-pin, and you connect it to the next hub. Now, our hub port, that is. So it looks like that, and then you take the third fan and you connect it to the last one. So then you're done, right? And that's really all there is to it. I mean, it's just that NZXT is trying to capture an audience. I think that they're probably, for some of their products, people love their cases. I think that their fans suck. I think that they charge a huge amount of money for their fans, and what the fans have to offer to us fans, is not enough for the price that they are charging. So I don't personally recommend NZXT products like this, whether it's the fan or it's a cooler. If they're going to do this proprietary crap and they're going to overcharge for substandard fans at that price level, then why buy it? You do what you want to do. I'm just telling you my viewpoint. Some people want to do it that way. They want to stay in the NZXT ecosystem, so to speak, IT ecosystem. Some of them just want the appearance of the fan, or they like the lighting effects that the fan has to offer. Hey, if you want to prioritize things that are meaningless in terms of getting the best out of your computer, that's your right as the owner of the computer. I have a different viewpoint from you. So now you've seen a hub, you've seen a splitter, you've seen Molex-D, and you've seen PWM. 3 pins, basically the same thing. It just doesn't have that 4th pin, obviously. Oh, and maybe you're asking with the splitter, why is it that one of them has 4 pins and the other ones are all missing that 3rd pin? Okay, well, it's really simple. The 4th pin transfers the PWM signal. Okay, and that's what's going to control the fan. The 3rd one controls, or not controls, but it sends to the computer, or to the, if you're connected to the motherboard, or to the hub or the splitter, which is connected to whatever. It sends information as to what speed the fan is spinning at, how many RPMs, in other words. And then these 2 fans actually provide the power. So this one controls how the power is pulsed on and off. This one tells the computer what speed the fan is spinning at, and these 2 are power. The first one is almost always ground, although there are some companies really annoyingly that do not do the first one as ground. Like if they have a 5-pin connector or a 6-pin connector or a 7-pin connector, the first one may not be ground. Like I had bought an easy DIY Fab Cube Pro that I thought was going to have 2 different connectors, one for PWM and the other one for ARGB. Instead, they sent me one with a 6-pin connector, and I was trying to figure out what the pin order was. I ended up destroying the lighting, but the fan does actually still work. But the ground was not the first pin, and that was part of the reason it got destroyed. So, easy DIY, this is what I have to say to you. And all the other companies that do that, if you're not going to tell us the pinouts and you're going to mess with us by requiring us to buy your hub, well, I'm just not going to buy it. Now, I'm done ranting. I promise. I'm sorry. If you have any questions, please put them down below in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share, and let everybody know. I'm trying to build this channel up so that I can help you. That was the whole purpose of me starting this channel, was to help consumers to make better choices, for computer parts, starting out with cooling. I don't talk about prices on this channel because every country, every store has different prices. So if I say that you can buy this fan for $3.50, you may not be able to buy it for less than $20 where you live. Or conversely, for me, it may be $30, and for you, it may be $5. So it just really heavily depends on the location you're in, the store that you're buying from. Yeah, so Noctua is cheap if you buy it in Germany, but it's expensive here in America, for example. Seeing as how they're really famous, I thought I'd use that as an example. Right, that's all there is.
Thank you for watching this video. Also, thank you to Lawrence Abrams at bleepingcomputer.com for allowing me to use his forum to promote my videos, and thus I promote his website, which is a great website with lots of resources for tech people and for people who have computers, be it if you need help with hardware or software or even with malware. They have lots of resources. They have also got lots of news on their website about the tech world. If you would be interested in me presenting some of that news here on this channel, would you please let me know? I already have permission from Lawrence Abrams to do that. I'm just not sure if that would be something of interest to people, so I haven't done it yet. But yeah, so please like, subscribe, share. Let people know about my channel if you think it's worth it. If you don't think it's worth it and you want to give me feedback, please do so constructively in a video or in the community tab. If you can't be constructive and civil and logical about it, then you probably should just be quiet, because I have a low tolerance for people who like to troll, which is to say, if you're going to be a jerk, I will not put up with it. So thank you very much again. I hope you have a wonderful day.